All right, we're going to go ahead and get started right here at the top of the hour. We've got quite a bit of content to get through today, so we're going to start promptly right now. So hello everyone, and welcome to today's webinar on developing people and teams in the remote and hybrid world. Expert advice to better coach and develop employees. My name is Charles Summers. It is my pleasure to be serving as your host today. We've got a 50-minute presentation before about a 10-minute Q&A at the end. If you have any questions at any time during today's presentation, please use the GoToWebinar questions queue, and we'll answer them during the Q&A session. If you'd like to reach out to me about any Humantelligence webinar questions or future webinar topics, feel free to reach out to me directly at charles.summers@humantelligence.com, or you can also chat me directly on LinkedIn as well. I'm also splitting my duties today with Martin Lister. He's a partner of Humantelligence, and he'll moderate the portion of today's webinar for our coaches. So how can you start leveraging Humantelligence for employee development and coaching in your efforts? Well, here's a couple of ways. I put 4 different ways on here for you to kind of get your feet wet with some different things. Some of these are free. You can also do a demo. So first, from our homepage, you can actually go and take our self-assessment. So right on our homepage, you'll see a trial button. You can sign up to take it yourself, and that'll measure your behaviors, motivators, and work energizers. Or you can actually now sign up an entire team as well, so you can get a quick culture mapping of a team as well. Also, we have a great new plugin available on Google Chrome, Gmail, Google Calendar, LinkedIn, Slack, and Outlook that will help you better communicate and collaborate with colleagues based on their underlying culture. It's called EQ Everywhere. So you can go to your Chrome store or to the Slack store. I'll also put links to all of these things in the chat here when I'm done talking, so you can go check some of those things out. If you're interested in a tour of Humantelligence, you can head on over to humantelligence.com/request-a-demo, and we'll give you a little tour through our various products. If you're a coach, we also offer a solution called Humantelligence for Coaches, where you can build your coaching business with an affordable monthly subscription. Once again, I will put a link to all of these different things. We'll talk a little bit more about the coaching thing as we go through our presentation today and you hear from some of our coaches. We have a big group of presenters today, so I'd like at this time to introduce you to everybody. So as I say everybody's name, feel free to come on your webcam and give a quick wave to our audience today. We've got like I said, it's a large group. They're joining us from different parts of the world today. So I appreciate everybody, especially those of you who are in a middle of the night situation that are joining us. The first person that I'm going to hand things off to today is going to be Teddy Dixon, Director of Training and Development at Custom Truck One Source. He's going to go through some of the things they're doing remotely to train and develop employees. Then I'm going to hand things over to our panel of 6 coaches to walk through how they're helping their clients. And once again, Martin will be doing the facilitation there. Our first panelist is Julia. She's located in the UK. She's lead impact igniter at Business Horsepower. Then we'll pass it along to Barbara. She works out of Chile in France. She's a business coach as well. And then we'll pass things off to Isabel. She's a director and coach at HQ Leadership International. And then we'll go over to our friends at Chrysalis Coaching Zone, Kata and Daphne. And finally, we'll round things out with Julio at Holistic Horses. Okay, so, and you guys can go ahead and turn off your webcams now. Okay, so our goal today is to really provide you with some expert advice on how to develop and coach employees in remote and hybrid work settings. So we're going to talk a lot about, how the pandemic impacted coaching methods and development, and how we can help prepare everyone here today for the current situations and going forward. So, Teddy will talk about the training and development within an organization, and then our coaches will talk a little bit about some specific coaching techniques that you can put into practice. So I'm going to kick things off here, and then I'm going to hand it over to Teddy after this slide. But the first thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to launch this poll. I'm going to keep it open for about 30 seconds. So give me 1 second while I open this poll up. Okay, so you should see it start to populate here on your screen at any moment. Sometimes it takes about 10 seconds. But what do you think has happened to the career development of your employees during the pandemic? Has it got better, worse, or has it stayed the same? So I'll give everybody about 15 more seconds here. Okay, we still have a few votes coming in. I'll give it 5 more seconds. All right. So again, the question was, what do you think has happened to the career development of your employees during the pandemic? Has it got better, worse, or stayed the same? The majority of you said worse or stayed the same. Very few of you did say that it got better. I'd be curious to understand how it got better. So if you do have, if you are one of the people that put better, I'd love to hear from you in the chat, or throw it in the questions queue as well. I'd love to understand that a little bit better. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and kick things over to Teddy at Custom Truck One Source. So Teddy, I'll welcome you to share your webcam and take over on audio here.
All right, thanks for inviting me to join today, Charles. So I'm the director of training and development with Custom Truck One Source in Kansas City, Missouri. We are a $1.2 billion company that manufactures, sells, rents, and upfits trucks for the building supply, construction, forestry, oil and gas, rail, refined fuel, telecom, utilities, and waste and refuse industries. Custom Truck One Source, we recognize the strengths and value of our most valuable assets, which is, of course, our employees. We have 26 locations across North America, and I've been with Custom Truck for just over a year now. Prior to that, I was with Harley-Davidson Motor Company for 17 years. And with HD, I worked in new product development, lean manufacturing, and human resources for the most part. I have a master's in organizational development. I am SHRM certified, and then I'm also a coach, a professional coach. I'm certified in Myers-Briggs Type Indicator, Gallup Strengths Finder, and then I'm also a subject matter expert in multiple lean manufacturing tools. And I tell you that because a lot of the organizations you work with are probably going through a lean transformation. And the people piece of that is the absolute most important tool for a lean manufacturing system to work. So I just thought I would throw that out there for you guys. So there were a lot of effects that spurred from dealing with COVID-19 this year. Travel has been something that's normal for CTOS employees. We have 26 locations, and we do a lot of travel. I was supposed to be traveling a lot this year. Well, of course, that stopped once travel got banned. And our training and development programs have been face-to-face interactions for a long time. So whether we're doing technical or soft skills training, for the most part, we've had to learn how to do it virtually. And a lot of that spurred from vendors they wouldn't accept employees coming into their sites, flying to their sites. If you flew, we had some that said, well, if you drive, we'll take you, but if you get on an airplane, we won't. So had to struggle with a lot of that. And then with the virtual training, a lot of the shop floor employees, a lot of our employees are service mechanics and in the service and rental industry. And it's difficult for some of those personalities to absorb the information when you're talking about virtual training. Especially when you're talking about stuff like forklift, mobile crane inspection, and other technical skills type of stuff. So we are known as an essential business, which means we continued production through this global pandemic. We service, like I said, we service trucks to the utility industry, and so we kept going through this. So we put a lot of controls in place for technical classes that required hands-on training. We limited the class size based on Center for Disease Control guidelines and required that all participants wear masks and sanitize often. So when we did have cases of COVID, which were few, but we had some in production areas, we shut down production and so that we could complete, and then we would complete contact tracing and bring in professional sanitation services to make sure everything was cleaned and make sure the mental well-being of our employees was, was sound through all of this. So as far as they asked me to touch on financial impact, and we did have some financial impact, especially at first when the economy slowed down significantly, and we cut travel. And like I said, that was a big part of our culture, is traveling around to the different sites and having face-to-face interactions with people. So we had to learn how to not do that, but it did save quite a bit of money on travel expenses. So once we did start learning to work from home, then we really started to gain momentum. Go ahead, Charles, next slide. So we made several adjustments this year. So our Roadmap to Leadership Development series, that's the series that we go through every year, and it changes up a little bit. So it was going to include change management later in 2020, but when COVID-19 hit, we realized that is all of a sudden a priority. And so we moved change management up and started delivering it immediately around April, as soon as we could get everything together. So we had to teach people how to be productive at home. This wasn't natural for them. This wasn't what they're used to. It was a complete change. So we really had to teach people how to work from home, how to be productive. So some tips, and some of you have probably seen this, most of you probably have, but get rid of distractions in the home place. Set up an area that's outside of where you normally are, so that when you're there, you're in your workplace, so that it feels like it's your workplace. Make sure anyone else in the home, especially now because a lot of families were quarantined, so they had children and spouses and significant others and whatever in the home. So they needed to learn to make sure that those people knew what their work schedule was and when they should not be disturbed. We developed a lot of learning aids and did classes around Microsoft Teams, Adobe Connect, and Zoom. For the most part, we use Teams quite a bit. So we had to teach people to use that, and a lot of these people weren't used to using computers, so we started pretty basic with that. And then there's been a huge, you realize this too, with this group of like-minded individuals, there's been a huge psychological impact on our society, and then specifically on our workforce, and we're around 1,500 employees across North America. So, for example, people that are very extroverted like myself, and probably a lot of us on this call, tend to recharge our batteries by being around other people, and so it energizes us when we go to work and we're around other people and we're in meetings. Well, now all of a sudden we're sitting in front of a computer all day. So we took a lot of those things into considerations. We started using the Teams and video conferencing for regular team meetings. Started people that used to get together face to face and weren't able to. We made sure to start setting up regular meetings and using video. So that you have that interaction with people, even if it is in front of a computer, because that's very important for some people. And then we rebranded our learning management system as Custom Truck University, and we started creating a lot of new options for online and then even mobile app type of learning. And we're still launching some of that stuff, but we have a pretty significant rollout schedule that goes along with that. So as far as coaching and mentoring, and this was also planned to be part of our leadership development, our Roadmap to Leadership Development series. Go ahead and advance the slide, Charles. So we moved that up too. That came right after change management, because we realized that people really needed to start having mentors and start getting that coaching in a virtual way when they're not face-to-face and having those regular interactions with people. So we use several different assessments focused around self-awareness at Custom Truck OneSource. Some of the ones that I mentioned, I'm certified in Myers-Briggs, Gallup. We also use the Simmons, and we started using Humantelligence in the last year too. And, that's the main ones that we use. So first of all, these are focused around self-awareness, understanding yourself, but more than that, to understand how you interact and communicate with individuals of different personalities. So we taught people about several different personalities, although not to identify specific people that that's what those personalities are, just that this is how you communicate with different types of people. So really tried to open up those communication channels and people's understanding of different ways to communicate in this type of environment. So these assessments also really help us to recognize our own strengths, our weaknesses, or blind spots, as I like to call them, and then natural talents, what we're naturally good at. And so I've started using these tools a lot more in virtual team meetings and virtual summits. We just went through a big one a while back with human resources, and right now we're focusing on our sales organization and doing a lot of work with about 130 people total out of our mostly sales organization. So like I said, after delivering change management, we changed our leadership development focus to coaching and mentoring. We gave the managing workforce some real easy tools to make coaching and mentoring easy, like a SMART goal worksheet and some coaching handouts and guides and powerful questions and clarifying questions and ways to start those conversations and make those relationships. And then in 2021, we're going to launch a more personalized and focused mentoring program that will pair people up, starting with like a speed dating type of forum where you have virtual meetings with one person and then they rotate and have little short 5-minute virtual meetings with several different mentors or mentees. And then once they're paired, then they will meet at least once a month to visit SMART goals in different terms, throughout the year, maybe quarterly goals, 1 year, 5 year, even 10-year goals. Get people start thinking in the long run, where will they be and what they really want to do, what are they good at, and how can they focus on that. So they also participate in online, or they will be participating in online development training that's provided by our employee assistance program, which most corporations use some type of employee assistance program. And they don't realize the options that exist with that, is that we're already paying our EAP. And so there's lots of leadership development and managing through change and coping with depressed employees and lots of different types of skills that are available through our EAP as New Directions, but there's several ones out there. So if you're working with corporate clients, you might want to check and see if there's some resources already there. All right, so one of the great things about Humantelligence is, well, one of the best things is that it takes 12 minutes to complete this assessment. I've struggled in the corporate world, more so at Harley than with Custom Truck One Source, getting people to participate in this type of activity, especially when it requires a long test. So Gallup and MBTI both take about 30 minutes to complete if they just do the one assessment. So this takes significantly less time. And then the portal, the Humantelligence portal is, in my opinion, the most beautiful thing about this, this tool. Once someone has completed the assessment, then they're automatically assigned goals in the portal that teaches them how to do it with just a few short videos and activities. So as the facilitator, as the OD guy, it takes a lot of calories, a lot of work off of my back. And it really provides some thorough information for the employees and for the teams, but I'll get into that. So we are able to, the managers or the administrators are able to look at individual and team results in several different areas: personal personas, behaviors, motivators, life priorities, work energizers, what energizes us. And then we can go in and we can actually compare. There's different levels. You've got teams, you've got groups, and then you've got individuals. And then you can compare them. And working with the Humantelligence team, I was able to put some parameters in there that I could filter by. So for example, and I'll show you on this next slide, I'm able to compare groups or teams or individuals, and then can filter by performance, tenure, whether they are working in a store or remotely, to name a few things. All right, so go ahead, next slide, Charles. Okay, so this is an actual graph from, or chart from my Humantelligence portal from my team. And this is my regional sales team, which for this team is 52 people. So this is an example of one of the many charts and graphs that describes our culture at Custom Truck. And that's the first thing that you really need to do, is identify the culture that they're swimming in, because people don't realize that they're in that culture when they're going through it. They're just living their lives. So So it's nice to identify, and right away, as people start completing the assessments, you're able to see what the current culture is. So notice that the left side of the slide has the high performers, and then the right is average performers. So the difference in that is our high performers sell over $3 million worth of product. Our average performers sell less than $3 million. So what's interesting about this, and was very surprising to me as a development professional, is that the average performers these are their life priorities, by the way. And there's, like I said, there's several different pieces in there, but this is their life priorities. So the main one for the average is security. Well, that doesn't show up anywhere in the top ones for the high performers, whereas the high performers' main life priority is freedom, which doesn't show up anywhere on the average performers. So then we started having this discussion as to why that is. And, so there's lots of different takeaways that you could take away from this, and the teams would take away from that. But, we've identified that these average performers are a little afraid to take some risks, maybe. They're more worried about that security. And so that seems to be holding them back somewhat. So beyond this, individuals and teams are able to share their results in the portal with other people that have taken the assessment, even if they're not on their team. And then managers can see all of their employees' data. And these are really helping to understand not only ourselves, but each other better. And then each report gives different tips. So for example, there's working with or communicating with me is one of the tips. And then as goals are completed, which the goals are learning different things in the portal, then the administrators or managers are able to assign more goals in the system to get people to focus on, once they know the results, focus on using the results. What are their natural talents? How can I participate in my motivators every day? Or how can I make sure that my priorities are something that I focus on every day to help me succeed? So as people participate in this type of self and cultural awareness, we're finding, and you would expect this, but that their engagement as employees goes up, along with their motivation and their output. So this tool is very easy to use. It's great for the for the facilitators like me, and it has a lot of really cool and very pretty. This is a pretty graph, and that's important when you're talking to a lot of people and getting them to participate in this stuff, that it looks good, and it all does, and it's very user friendly. So does anybody, that's what I have for this, and I was asked to save a little time for questions and answers. Hopefully I didn't talk too long, Charles, but anybody have anything for me?
Yeah, so Teddy, I've actually got 3 questions from the audience, and for time's sake, we'll move pretty quickly through these.
Okay.
So about a 30-second answer on each one of them. So the first question is, for training and development during working from home periods, how did you differentiate approaches between new starter employees who are onboarding versus existing employees who already have internal networks and relationships?
Yeah, so that is one way that we save some money too, is we have done very little hiring since earlier this year. So we still have been doing some onboarding, and when we bring people in, new hires, and they'll go into a room and they'll be by themselves, social distance, and go through some of the stuff with an instructor, but then a lot of the stuff is done virtually. Whereas the people that are working from home, we've really had to transfer training and development to a virtual environment. So there's been a lot of work around instructional design and transferring already prepared stuff into a virtual format. Hopefully that answers that question.
Perfect. Okay, so next question here. Do you use Adobe Connect to manage online teams or just for training delivery?
So I've just been using it for training delivery. I love the format in that it has polls and lots of different stuff. It's not as user friendly as some other stuff. So I've only used it for delivery at this point.
Cool. And then this person said, wondering what assessment you used for self-awareness. I think you mentioned Humantelligence a little bit. Do you use any of those other assessment tools for self-awareness as well?
Yeah, so I think all the tools I mentioned are very much for self-awareness. Understanding your own strengths and talent, Gallup strengths, understanding your own talents, what you're good at. And then the same with Myers-Briggs, understanding my personality. I know that I'm an extreme extrovert. If I'm working with somebody that's an extreme introvert, then I may have to change my communication style. So yes, all of those tools are definitely around self-awareness. And then a secondary feature is understanding others or empathy.
Perfect. And then there's one other question that came in. What do your virtual summits look like?
So our virtual summits, and it depends on what they are, but like the most recent one we did was a human resources summit. We've got about 14 people in the human resources department. And so we separate it by different things that we're doing. But I generally do one day. And in that day, I will deliver results of an assessment or revisit results of assessment of a team to understand each other, and then pair up or do activities separating teams and do virtual activities like in breakout rooms where they will learn about how other personalities or other team members handle things in a different way than I would.
Cool. Well, Teddy, I really appreciate your willingness to come on to the presentation today and share your findings and some of the things that you've done with our audience. So I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and we're going to switch gears here. And Martin, I'm going to invite you to come on here, and I'm going to give you controls of the presentation. So give me one moment.
Okay, sounds good, Charles.
Okay, you should now have the controls.
Okay. Everybody can see that just fine. If not, please shout and let me know. So thanks for that, Teddy. Some great insights there on how you have adapted sort of through the COVID environment. What we want to turn to now is look at how coaches have changed their delivery as well. Because team-based coaching has really suffered through COVID. We hear reports of revenues being down 70% for team coaches who coach physical teams, and I've just been absolutely blown away by how coaches have adapted to this situation. So we've got 6 really great examples of how coaches have adapted to the new paradigm. We'll be going around the world to find out what's been going on. And we'll start off in the UK with Julia Felton. Julia has identified that one of the biggest challenges for remote workers is loneliness and feeling disconnected from what's happening. And what she'll be talking about is some simple strategies on how to lead remote team members so they stay engaged and motivated, and they remain able to deliver impactful results for the business. So to you, Julia.
Well, thanks, Martin, and really delighted to be here, everyone. So just a quick little bit about me. I have a former corporate background. I've been running my own business for a number of years. It's typically been based on experiential learning. So people actually coming out to be with me, but obviously that's been a challenge with COVID. So really had to pivot the business to really start focusing on how we could help engage teams. So still working with creating high performance teams, developing leadership capability, but within the context of the remote environment. So I really wanted to just spend the next, I've only got 6 minutes, so I've got loads to share with you, just talking about some tips and strategies about how you can engage your teams during this time. So the latest research that I just read today was talking about more than half the global workforce are working remotely, and only about 12% of people actually want to go back to the workplace. So leading teams globally is an issue we're all going to be facing going forward. But what are some of the current concerns that leaders are telling me about leading teams at this time? And really, there are 5 key areas, and one's around less productivity. So leaders are concerned that their team members will get distracted. Teddy talked about that earlier on, and that they won't be able to manage their time very well to get everything done. They're also concerned about the fragmented communication. How are they going to let their team members know what's going on and stop people getting left out of the loop? Thirdly, one of the challenges is this lost spontaneity and innovation. So when we're in the workplace, it's amazing how much work gets done with what I call water cooler talk. So, you know, around the coffee machine, sharing ideas, and that's where a lot of innovation and ideas get sprung from. But of course, when we're all working remotely, we lose that. And as a result of not having that water cooler talk, we can end up with weaker relationships because you just don't know how your colleagues are getting on at this time and what's going on for them. And then again, because we're not all in the same space, we can suffer from culture erosion because the environment shapes what we do and culture shapes the environment. So these are some of the challenges that my clients and everyone are citing about what's going on. So if we just go to the next slide, Martin, because I think this is really important, that research shows that managers who cannot see their direct reports sometimes struggle to trust that their employees are indeed working. And some of you might be able to relate to that. And this is some research done by the Harvard Business Review. And the problem is, if we don't trust our team members that they're going to do the work that we need them to do, then all the relationships break down because trust is the foundational cornerstone of any type of relationship. So there has been, again, some research done that shows that teams that have high levels of trust have, if you just flip back a minute, 74% less stress, 50% higher productivity, and 40% less burnout. So there's a lot of reasons for trusting your team by default and then verifying their performance against that. So giving everyone the benefit of the doubt. So if we just jump into three main areas, if you flip the slide, Martin, that's great, where if we really focus on these, they can make a massive difference. And all of these areas are interrelated. So make a change in one and you make a ripple effect on everything else. So maintaining productivity, one of the top concerns, like we said, employees are less productive, they don't manage their time well, and they struggle to prioritize work correctly. So what can we do? If you just put the first bullet point up there, Martin, what's one of the solutions? First of all, help team members have a clear understanding of their roles and responsibilities. This might mean evaluating their job descriptions. Some roles have changed as a result of working at home, and get really clear on what things we need to start, what things we need to stop, and what things need to continue in the business. The second solution would be to establish SMART goals. So helping our team members stay prioritized, maybe with 90-day goals, monthly goals and milestones, 2-week sprints. So everyone knows what they need to get done when they need to get it done. And of course, the goals need to be SMART, measurable, achievable, relevant, and timely. If we go to the next slide, well, the next bullet point, yeah. It's about creating structures that help keep the team focused and on track. So this is about what I call bookending the days. So for some employees, they need a check-in in the morning and something in the evening. Help them get that energy and motivation they get when they usually go into the workplace. You might also have a schedule of a weekly meeting. So in Monday morning, set the priorities for the week, and on Friday, close off the week. So if we go to the next slide, where you can see in the morning you could have an energizer, at the end of the day you have a wrap-up session, everyone can celebrate what they've accomplished on that day, and it also helps give that clear boundary between the start and end of work for team members. If we go to the next slide, the next area of the second strategies is keeping the communication flowing. So again, communications, we're concerned that they're fragmented, people are left out of the loop, this spontaneity diminishes, and some people disappear from view and feel isolated. And those can particularly be the introverts, you know, different to what Teddy was talking about the extroverts. The introverts can just get immersed in their own bubble and not move forward. So what are some of the solutions here? If we have the first bullet point, please, Martin. Is make sure you're a visible and accessible leader. So in the old days, we did management by walking about, as Peter Drucker used to define it. Obviously much more difficult in a remote situation. So how, as you as a leader, how do you stay connected to your team? Let them know that you're available. Maybe you have check-in hours so that they know where they can find you and where they can ask questions. Second bullet point there, please, Martin. Communicate confidently and consistently. You cannot over communicate at these times with people. And make sure you have a routine and a schedule so people know what the communication strategy is and they actually know what's going on in the business. You know, it's tell them, and tell them again. As leaders, sometimes we can think if we told something to people, they've heard it once, they know what's going on. You can never say things too often. And the next slide. because actually 91% of employees say they feel more comfortable working from home if their leader sets clear expectations for responsiveness and communication. So they know what's going to go on, they have more confidence about working, and that's a piece of research by Hired Inc. earlier on this year. And then the last bullet point on communication here is about rethink your meetings so that you improve the information flow and people connection. Because, you know, many of us have been in meetings that just haven't lived up to the mark. And if we just go to the next slide, Martin. The problem is, and we knew this before COVID, most meetings were unproductive. In fact, executives consider more than 67% of meetings were a failure. So how do we create meetings that are effective and are particularly remote meetings? And on the next slide, Martin, we'll just share with you a quick model that I use all the time called the EPIC meeting strategy. So all meetings need to have an energy, purpose, insight, and connection. And if anyone wants this checklist on how to run an EPIC meeting, we'd be happy to share that with you afterwards. And finally, the third strategy is around connection and communication. So we're worried that the culture is going to erode, relationships suffer, and particularly, Teddy alluded to this, indoctrinating new employees in the team can be difficult and needs a new approach. So what are some of the solutions here? First of all, make sure you build connection to the business. Make sure your team members know what the strategies and goals are. And then on this second point here, Martin, really make sure you articulate the purpose. Why does your business exist? What are you doing? This is the glue that galvanizes everyone and pulls everyone in the same direction and brings alignment. And if we just flip to the next slide, PwC did a really interesting piece of research that showed that this moment in history provides an opportunity and a spur for all organizations to ground themselves in their purpose. And that is to focus on the core questions. Why do we exist? Why are we here? And whose needs are we here to meet? So purpose has become a really hot topic, really, really important that we focus on it, but that it's not just sent to employees from the top down, but actually all the team members have some input into how to create a really compelling purpose for the business that galvanizes them, that helps them feel like they're contributing. And to the next slide, the final strategy here is to make sure that we measure the outcomes, not the inputs. So by setting clear goals, team members can do the work in the time that they need to get it done, and they get the outcomes that we want. And we're not measuring how many hours that they're sitting at their desk and getting frustrated that they're now off on social media and getting distracted, because we're actually measuring the outcomes and not the inputs. So those are some quick strategies for how to develop the business, but I just wanted to talk quickly here about the Human Intelligence Remote Scorecard. If you want to just put the bullets up, Martin. Because while we've got strategies for how to deal with this, we need to remember that everyone within our team is an individual. Everyone has different drivers and motivators, and Human Intelligence have an amazing remote scorecard that helps you figure out what the drivers are for people and how that impacts them when they're working remotely. If we just flip onto the next slide. And it can help them show how the remote team member fares against some predictable norms that typically remote workers want. So again, Teddy talked about being an extrovert. Extroverted people often find it more difficult to work remotely because they get energized by being with other people. So they need different strategies in place to help them with that versus somebody who's more introverted on the scale. And if you just flip the next two slides, because these just show you how the Human Intelligence compares your culture with your team with what the ideal remote team performance is. If you go on to the next slide, Martin, as well. And then the next one. And it also provides this great graphic here where you can see people that are more disposed to work remotely and people that are less. So this poor guy, David G, he's only got a 40% congruence with working remotely. If you're a leader, that's really great to know that, because you know that you're going to need to do some things differently for David versus Katie there, who's got a 73% alignment with working remotely. So just for attending this webinar today, if you go to the next slide, David, sorry, Martin. I'd love to invite you, if you'd like to take and discover your remote working preference using Human Intelligence. If you just go to my website, impactigniters.com/humantelligence, you'll be able there to take your remote working preference, discover what it is, and know how to apply it to your business. And I'm all about purpose. I'm all about education. So anyone who does that, I will donate a day's e-learning to a child in India to improve their education. So that's a quick canter through that. Thank you very much, everybody. And on to the next person.
Thank you, Julia. Really appreciate that. That's a great offer. We would also encourage people to do that and help a child in India with e-learning. So now we will go down to Chile, to Barbara Domo, who will talk about how to continue to develop senior management in a changing environment by helping them understand why their existing style now has a different effect to the one pre-COVID, and guide them how to become more adaptable and effective leaders more suitable to the evolving needs. So over to you, Barbara. Barbara?
Hey, Martin, I haven't got any audio. Can you hear anything?
No, I can't hear anything, Charles. Barbara, are you there?
It looks like she is dropped off.
Okay.
She may have had a technical issue. So let's go ahead and move on to
Let's move on
the next
to
one. We
Isabel.
can circle back if we need to.
Sure. Yeah. So let's move on. Let's head on over to India to Isabel. Now, the unique thing about Isabel is she had a very hands-on coaching program using horses, and she has made that completely virtual. This is an amazing story of adaptation. So Isabel, if you're ready, then you go ahead with your short presentation.
Awesome. Thank you so much and welcome to India. Julia has put it already up there that she's doing something for India. I am in India now the past 13 years. I'm originally from Austria and I have found my home in India. I love the country, I love the culture, and I work here as a leadership coach with horses. So like Julia, I also use the power of horses for leadership coaching for corporate clients as well as for individual clients. Now, today I'm going to show you a little bit, a little snapshot of really how we do this in a remote world. Because a lot of it is experiential and now we can't do that. So Martin, if you can jump right into the first slide, we can talk about the values of the horses. Awesome. So why we use horses? Because they actually embody all of these values we love to have in our companies, not only on the board and on the walls of the companies, but also embodied in our employees and in our teams. So horses are flight animals. They would run away from anything which scares them. And that's how they survived through millions of years, by only trusting people and following people and other horses when they felt safe. That psychological safety they need to have in order to really develop the bond and to feel trust. So when you work with horses, you also will see that in a minute in the video that horses really pay a lot of attention with their relationships. Then horses have, of course, a lot of energy. They have a lot of power, a lot of strength, and they are very agile. Horses symbolize also wisdom. you say sometimes, let the thinking be done by the horse because they have the bigger heads. And in India, there's actually a god called Hayagriva, which is a god with a horse head, symbolizing wisdom and knowledge. And then what all we can learn from the horses is also about empathy and really understanding others' feelings. And to really show you a little bit more than a picture, I brought with me on the screen at least some of our horses. And in the video, which is going to come right up, you will see 4 of our horses in India. A few of them are race horses. And Martin, we can actually start it, maybe without the sound, if that's possible. Yeah, so I hope you will see something through the video. Sometimes it's a little broken. So you see how the horses actually communicate a little bit with each other. And there is the gray horse called Sunshine. Then we have Star World, which is a light color brown one, chestnut one. Then there's Snoopy, the brown and white one, and Menlo Park. And I hope you can see something. For me, it's getting a little bit stuck now. How the horses really bond with each other, and they all have actually different strength. Some of them keep running around and keep, really using the space and trying to motivate the others as well. And they have a very big space, but they prefer to actually be always close to each other. Now you can see one of them is lying down, they are rolling in the sand just to rub themselves, and like you're giving yourself a scrub sometimes, so the horses love to do that as well. And then you see them coming back together again, having some communication with each other. And you also see Snoopy now. Snoopy is the one who loves to eat. And right now we have changed something. Right now you see like the big red ball coming in. And you see now the footage of what happens when the ball comes inside this arena and how do the horses respond. And honestly, the horses respond to that ball the same way like people do to everything which scares them, like this pandemic. The horses' first response is to run away. And they get scared and they panic. And then it takes a little while till they slowly go there. And you see now 2 horses have already reached the ball. They go and explore it and slowly try to, feel it out, what it is. And through them moving first, so the 2 most active horses were the first movers. They move first. And then there's Snoopy and Menlo Park coming in, which are just coming in because they feel like my herd and my team, my community is there. So we also have to join the others. And there are a few strategies, what you can see, how horses respond to changes and how horses actually embody a lot of the values we want to nurture in our corporate world. So there's a little takeaway we have summarized here on the slide, which is what can we do for a better virtual teamwork, and what do we learn actually from the horses you have seen before. And even sometimes it was maybe stuck, but you have seen that the horses interact a lot. And the first important thing what we need to know is each other's strength and motivation. And like I said, Snoopy was the one who is always going to the hedges trying to eat. So his motivation is food. Then the white horse, Sunshine, her motivation is to run around and to just be playful. So her motivation, her strength is the speed and agility and the power. And what we can analyze by observing the horses, we can also do with humans. We observe them, and a lot of HR professionals are really good at that. They can understand and realize, oh, this is that kind of people, and naturally we respond to this. But when we do it for a larger group, it's sometimes difficult. So I also use in my work the HT culture assessment, which really gives a very fast and very clear picture of how the team is structured and which areas I can develop more and what are the motivations and strengths of each and every team member. And the next point, the second point, what we have seen with the horses was to engage in conversations. Now, it's really easy to say this, and you see that horses engage in conversations all the time. They don't talk to each other, but they are communicating and they interacting with each other. So how much time do you actually engage with every single team member? Would be my question to you. And the last point is to lead by example. What you have seen with the two horses which have actually led the way to the ball and led the way to the challenge. You have to walk the talk, and you have to actually lead by example, that others can follow you and that others can see you as a role model. So that's it from my side. And I'm looking forward if you have any questions, and maybe some of you found their favorite horse. Maybe you want to type it in the chat. Which was your favorite horse? Sunshine, Snoopy, Starboard, or Menlo Park? Thank you. That's it from my side and from Chennai. And I say bye-bye.
Thanks, Isabel. Really appreciate that. I know that you faced some incredible challenges getting this sort of set up virtually so that you could carry on working in India, which of course has been badly hit by the pandemic. I just want to move on. I just want to say, if we do go over, then we will send everyone a copy of the recording if they need to jump off. So feel free, you won't miss anything. You'll receive the recording and you can catch up. So now I want to head out to Bulgaria, to Kader Burkil, and Kader is going to talk about how leaders fail to capitalize on how much their team can teach them. He'll share how you gain deep insights into broader team cultures to make the coaching process for personal development of individual leaders specific and results orientated. So over to you, Kader.
Yeah, thank you, Martin. Well, hello, everybody. Thank you, Isabel, because as well you described very well the advantages of using the horses in our coaching, since we are, and I am a coach, partnering with horses as well in our daily life. And I'm the co-founder of Chrysalis Coaching Zone, together with Daphne, that is going to talk later on. So today, in the next 6 minutes, what I'd like to do is not coming back on how we can use the horses and why they are so efficient to help leaders to understand and better lead their teams. It's more, I wanted to relate it to a problematic that we very often face here in Bulgaria and some other country that are not so keen or so familiar with the coaching. So we face very regularly manager leaders that does not believe that coaching is efficient and that they cannot learn. Nobody can learn their team, their inside, the culture from the outside. So that's one of the problematic we had. And fortunately, I would say, we had just before the lockdown the possibility of talking with one of the managing director of a manufacturing company here in the middle of Bulgaria through a Zoom session that really triggered something very interesting for us. So maybe on the next slide, Martin. Yeah. So, and this was not the previous one. So this was thanks to Humantelligence platform. So we came across Humantelligence through a very specific path because I did work from my because of my background, aviation background. on a project that was supposed to help the pilots with the Humantelligence platform, and we had the idea to use it as well for our coaching. And this is what we've done with one of our prospects that we had at that time, and that's the short story I'm going to tell you. So next slide. So we had just before the lockdown the possibility of having a Zoom session. It was not Zoom exactly at that time, but with this managing director and the human resources manager. So the idea, they were willing to listen to us with our horse-assisted coaching, but also to understand and see if we could help them and how we could help them, because they could not really figure out the way we could do that. So after explaining them what the horse and the training we are offering could do, we offered them to analyze, to do a culture analysis of their team without knowing them. So using Humantelligence, this is what we did, and we promised them that we would have some insight without knowing the people that would help them managing better their team and highlighting some very important point or challenge they could face in the future. So they agreed on that. So on next slide. So they did, all members, the 11 members did the assessment. So put some extract, even if it's not readable, that's not very important here. So of course the remote scorecard was very interesting for them, and it was just before the lockdown. So we could not imagine this could be so pertinent to do it at that time, and the culture. So with the 11 people doing the assessment, having the remote scorecard, the culture report from HD, we, on the next slide, we offer them like a report, a more detailed report, just highlighting what we've seen through the report without knowing the people. That was the idea. And I've just put some extract. For example, here on the behaviors, we've identified at least 2 people with that were highly decided, that might be frustrated, so without knowing them. So we've put some, we've highlighted some points that really resonated to the managing director and to the HR manager. They really, they told us afterwards, we are really surprised how fine and how precise the report is, and how those insights are so true. We could feel it. There's few things we did not identify, but they were really surprised of this. So we had, of course, we continued this discussion, and of course the lockdown came, and this helped them identifying the people that could suffer from being isolated during the lockdown thanks to the remote scorecards, but also this is something we knew afterwards. They were in the middle of completely rethinking their models, because it was after 3 years of operation where they started from scratch, a manufacturing company. They would have to go, let's say, in a cruise mode, which means that all the startups model they had to come to this level had to be changed, and they needed to identify where they could face some problem to industrialize better their process through the management. So that it was really powerful, because everything we told them before meeting them, before even interviewing or having any coach with the people, was so pertinent that then they decided to trust us. So this is the coaching we did. And the good thing as well, at the same time, they forced us to reinvent ourselves, because we had as well to figure out how we could coach those people during the COVID, during the lockdown, and how we could use as well our horses to help them the way we do it when we are face to face. So we have invented new ways of coaching people, and it works. We've decided, for example, we've created a new helmet on which we can put our phones with the camera, and we alone with the horses become the avatar of those customers that are on the other side. We got their instruction, so they got some instruction from one of the coach. The other one is in the arena, and we just do what we do with the people in the arena in a normal way, except that we become the avatar, and we are listening to the to the client to go right, left, to go close to the horse and find out and help them getting some emotion and insight and revelation from who they are and how they can enhance some of their let's say what I would say weaknesses or some of their traits that they would like to improve during this COVID and even later when it comes to leadership. Well, thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed.
Thanks, Kate. I really appreciate that. And then if we can, we will move across to Daphne. We've only got two left to do. So we'll hear from Daphne Haman, who will talk about how leaders internalize their behaviors, motivation, sentiments, and patterns so they are invisible. And she will discuss how to make the invisible visible through the coaching process so that leaders become more transparent, better understood, and effective.
Hi, good evening. Can you hear me? Okay, super. I will start a little bit differently. I will start by introducing me by showing you my 3 HT personas. So I'm a thinker, and I have to say I am a happy thinker, a result driver, and a creative. So I recognize myself very well in these personas, and it helped me a lot to understand myself better, especially when it comes to being a thinker. So Martin, if we can have the next slide, I will introduce you today to the adventure change management according to a German model. So how can leaders go from one state to another without passing through an intermediate state? COVID has brought us to a completely new state without any intermediate time. This is a definition of sublimation. A disruption like the pandemic is happening at a scale and speed that is unprecedented in modern history. New research shows that certain leadership attributes are particularly important to meet these demands of disrupted business environment. Leaders are not very prepared to guide their companies, including employees and customers, through the eyes of Corona storm. They have to find a new role model for leadership, and to define it, they need active support and planning. Let's see how coaching can bring them from the state is to the state target, or we could also say should be, from an old leadership culture to a new leadership culture. At Chrysalis, as a part of coaching with horses and with the support of the Humantelligence platform, we design new paths to minimize the intermediate state. The leader's HT profile is our base of work with the analysis of the is and definition of the should be or target. Offering only knowledge, traditional art skills, and cognitive-based trainings is a short visionary approach and not sufficient anymore, where it's necessary for leaders to act and adapt fast. This is a visible structural transition, as you can see it on the slide, used in traditional coaching. Companies are spending a lot of time, resources, and money on this level, but in the long term, it has been shown that for a transformation process, it's not efficient enough. Here, I think the emotional part is missing. Growing is the magical word. Traditional paths must be abandoned on this structural level. In many situations, leaders are called upon with urgency to face these changes and to set a role model. It is becoming increasingly clear that the greatest challenge for this change is cultural transformation. Managers should ensure this change. This can only succeed if those responsible for leading change themselves. Only then can they credibly and effectively guide changes in culture. We say easier said than done. After all, it's important to leave well appreciated, familiar and proven behavior patterns behind and to venture into uncharted territory. A new territory far from your comfort zone, familiar knowledge, rank and orders, privilege, status and recognition. It is precisely with these artifacts that many managers establish their identity and derive their legitimation to lead from this. Offering a practically and reliable learning path in the invisible personal transition area, as shown on the bottom part of the slide, is what brings leaders to success and to their new leadership culture. So we speak of a personal transition on the invisible level. This is why it is so important to invest in leadership development with a personal roadmap where leaders take an active part. Flexibility and agility are expected. Empathy skills and non-hierarchic leadership cooperation are necessary. As a conclusion, 3 essential questions. Why should we change? What is the current state? Where do we want to go? Where is target, the should be, the desired state? How we will go from is to target? Answering those questions seems easy, but a leader might feel left alone with it, overwhelmed and even fearful. To leave behind these old patterns, it requires emotional intelligence development, experience and learning with all senses, going out of your comfort zone, letting go of discrepancy and welcome coherence, a safe space for experiment, trial and error. This is where the work with horses come into action to trigger all these traits. Horses will be introduced in a gentle way in phases to provide organic feedback and for emotional stimulation. The results will bring transparency in behavioral and thinking patterns, impulses to dissolve bad patterns, new perspective, move to efficient behaviors and motivations to be measured by HT profiles, and anchor new role patterns. And so target can be reached. And I reached my target now. I'm finished. Thank you.
Thanks, Daphne. We will now move over to Mexico, to Julio. Yeah, Julio's got a really interesting presentation. He'll be talking about how to develop EQ in people with the goal of enhancing honest relationships in the workplace, reducing friction, rejection, and overcoming overcare by transforming it into real care.
So, hello, thank you, Martin. Thank everyone and welcome everyone. And just gonna begin with this 6-minute talk, making just one simple way that we work with our clients and how HT has helped us in this virtual and working from home mode right now. So we're gonna start with some facts, and the first one is that this year COVID-19 had the demands had exceeded our capacity. In a certain way, we changed our personal culture, and so that means that our behaviors and motivators and values have changed, at least in a temporary way. So that causes and that all the world went to working from home without training, but with more demands, at least thinking and feeling those demands. So that causes a shift between genuine care and overcare. When genuine care becomes stressful, teams start to experience feelings such as anger, frustration, impatience, worry, even sadness, which it means that this care has turned into overcare. When overcare adds up, I mean, there's a lot of overcare, your capacity to handle challenge diminishes, and it could lead to anxiety, burnout, giving up, some other apathy, disconnection between the team members, and just simply drop out. So why is this important? Because when this happens, the poor performance and collaboration show up in previously unseen behaviors, habits of disconnection between members and between the teams. So what really I want to focus is that wellness programs have been seen as a nice to have, but nowadays there are strategic assets for all companies and for all corporates, because wellness is known like to get into a state of being, and it's really a state of action that it's needed in a person and in the company. So here the point is, here's why wellness programs aren't work so well. So we tend to rely upon the culture memory, the culture that we used to have or we think you have. Nevertheless, we are experiencing a shift in the actual company culture in the mainly 4 domains, that it's self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, and relationship management. So this is not adapting to what is going on in the world. It's not adapting to the culture, and it's better to understand that we are experiencing that shift in the culture and then enhance it. Because stressful or discordant conditions in a given group act to increase the emotional stress. For example, all the money issues and all the social environment and all the health issues or the concern. So that's why failed programs, they mostly fail nowadays, because the wellness is so profound. And as I was telling you, it has to be like a way to go into life. So here's one example. The next one, Martin, please. This is the example we work with our clients. So the first thing is to know the actual culture. So in order to measure the actual culture, we use the HT culture software. After that, we got this snapshot and the picture of the actual culture of the company or the teams, and we apply a stress and well-being assessment. It could be individual or for the whole corporation. So in that way, we have that 2 pictures: the stress way, the individual stress and the company stress and well-being assessment and measure. And then we use the engagement suite. The engagement suite, it's a piece of art in this Humantelligence, because we can do these surveys, and in these surveys, we can do the follow-up. This is the key question of all, to do the follow-up of what we are doing, to be this in this space, holding space for the team members, holding space for everyone. So in this specific example, we have here one of the surveys that you can use and that we use, that it gives you the employee net promoter score. In this case, we are seeing over there the 43%, which it means that we have, or the other way of reading this is that we have a 57% of the persons of the company that they are not engaged in the company. Say another way, we have a 57% of the persons in the company that they are not our promoters of our own company. So that tends that we are having right now a lot of issues of people not feeling engaged with their companies and with the work. Another example of how we use this engagement suite. Next one, please, Martin. In this is a clear example, so how when overcare adds up, trust goes down. And as already they mentioned, Julia and all of us in this webinar, when trust goes down, there's a huge thing to do over there. So here, the 83% of the people that answered these surveys, they were manifesting or experiencing overcare. And just the 14% of the people here, they were showing trust beyond and in all the groups. So there's a very slow number, a very few number of trust between these people in this company. So that's a huge way to work and a lot way to go on. And the last one, just to finish this, is that we mainly focus on 3 points. And this to switch from the emotional culture, it's taking it from a state of being to state of action. And in 3 simple steps: just raise resilience, increasing by growing. So focus on maintaining work-life balance. That's huge, and that's really important nowadays. If if you raise resilience, then you're gonna slow down the burnout. So reset, restart, and maintain temporal boundaries, at least for the moment, and make sure to notice all the people that is working in your company, to know the difference between a courtesy and a genuine care. Because in that way, when you think that you are acting by courtesy, maybe you are adding up some of the overcare symptoms. So if you raise up resilience, then burnout will go down, and that definitely is going to take or raise the engagement of everyone in the company. Raise the pride and the honor that enables leader to sustain the peak performance during this moment. And that will definitely take you to foster a mutual commitment for more efficiently in a changing environment. And I think all of us have no doubt that we are living in a lot of a changing environment. So that's what I need and I have to share with all of you. Thank you, Martin.
Thanks, Julio. Yeah, so what we will do is we have managed to find Barbara. So let's just go and give Barbara her, I know where she is. Let's go back to, see, there we go. So Barbara, welcome back. Barbara is the last presenter of this evening, morning, or afternoon, whichever time zone you're in. So, and Barbara will be talking about how to develop senior management in a changing environment. Hi, Barbara. Yeah, so I'm not getting Barbara. Is anybody else?
Martin, I'm not. I am seeing that her name is in the staff list in the panelists, but right. It appears that there's a note next to it that says offline. So I'm guessing that there's some sort of technical issue. Okay. But we can always record her part later if we need to. Yes. And it out. So maybe we just take that path.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's do a second recording for Barbara. And so, you know, I think as you can see, coaches have really had to adapt a lot to the current environment. The industry really has taken a big hit. But I mean, as I say, I'm just blown away at how people are adapting to it. So I think with that, Charles, I think we'll hand control back to you, and then you can sort of either do questions or close us out. I know time is getting on for people, but we still have a lot of people on, thankfully.
Yeah, it's great. We had an awesome turnout today. We've actually still got over 100 people who hung out with us well after the top of the hour here. So let me change the presenter back to myself. Give me just a moment. Okay. So let's we're actually going to go ahead and skip over questions here, just because we have just a couple that are more like, you know, privacy type questions about the tool that we'll follow up with you on. I have a lot of questions in here about whether or not you'll get the slides and the recording. I will have an email. It'll come out from my name here in another couple of hours with all of the information from today. So the slides, the recording, all the links that I put in the chat. If you want to get in contact with us, you can respond to that email directly. I'll set you up with an expert. The information about to contact the coaches that were here today, you can find that within the presentation in one of the early slides. So you'll have a way to get in touch with those people. So with that said, I just want to just mention one more time, you know, there's a few different things that you can go try today. You can go to the Humantelligence website and take the culture assessment for yourself or for a team. EQ everywhere. I'll send out the links again. If you'd like a product tour, feel free to go to the request demo page from our website. And Humantelligence for coaches, again, you'll have contact information for today's coaches in this presentation, that you can reach out directly if you're interested in that solution as well. So one more thing I just want to mention is, big shout out to our audience. Thank you for joining us today. And also thank you to all of our presenters and panelists. I really appreciate all of you staying up late and joining us here today. With that said, I'm going to go ahead and close out today's webinar. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me directly at charles.summers@humantelligence.com. All right, thank you. Bye-bye.